Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance. So sit back, relax and enjoy some satisfying stories. Deny my request to move from hourly to salary, then dump all this extra work on me? Cool, thanks for the extra paycheck. Years ago, I worked as the sole hourly employee on a team with salaried workers. This designation had been a mistake on my initial contract, and my cool boss said she would switch me to salary just as soon as my first year contract was up. Unfortunately for me, just before my anniversary, my cool boss left and a witchy coworker got promoted. Request denied. No reason given other than, I don't think it's necessary. A few weeks later, we had this event that had been planned by a cool boss, but since she left the company, it fell to the new witchy boss and the rest of us workers to staff it. The location for this event was nearly an hour away from the office. Everyone else could just show up at the location, but being hourly, I had to first go to the office, clock in, then drive an hour. Oh well, guess I get paid for travel time. The night before the event, we had hired a set building team to put everything together, but someone from our company had to stay until they were finished, per contract with the location. Witchy boss decided to make me stay as I was her least favorite, so the rest of the team left and went home. Well, there were major issues with the set, and by 10 PM it was just me and the one set builder left in place as he was trying to make this thing work. Set builder didn't care as he was making a ton of overtime, and besides this particular configuration had been 100% his idea. So he was determined to solve it. I decided I didn't care because I had found some cushions to sleep on. I ended up dozing from about 11 PM to 5 AM when he finally finished and we could leave. I then drove an hour to the office, clocked out and went home, which was thankfully a short drive. I had an hour to shower, change and go back to the office to clock in, then drive an hour to meet everyone back at the location at 8 AM. We then worked the event with witchy boss again, assigning me to stay later than her to supervise breakdown. So in a 36-hour window, I ended up being on the clock for 33 of those hours. Monday morning, witchy boss has to approve and submit payroll, and only then does she realize that she has to pay me time and a half for those 33 hours. She actually had the gall to be mad at me for not warning her about all the overtime, which made me laugh as I explained, I didn't think that was necessary since it was your idea to keep me hourly, boss. I bet she sees a reason to change it from hourly to salaried now. Sometimes the mechanic is right. Little backstory here. I am a professional mechanic and have been for a little over 10 years. I specialize in diagnostics and heavy repair at a do-all shop. Basically, we work on all makes and models. Now, being a mechanic, we have seen the spectrum of customers who get mad over something they did, bad parts and whatnot, but this story, even after 5 years, still makes me chuckle. It was a normal day when this lady drove her Hyundai van in for a diag. Think of an older looking Karen, nothing unusual about her at first. She comes up and says her check engine light came on and the car just does not want to move like it used to. No problem, I tell her. As we write up the work order and everything, I get to work while she waits. Upon pulling the van in, I notice it's making noise. So I shut it down and immediately plugged in my scanner to read the computers in the car for errors. A bunch of error codes pop up, and after looking over them, I see they all lead in the direction of timing issues. The car sees different positions for mechanical parts in the engine. My thought is, oh, timing belt jumped, easy. Timing belt is a very critical part of some engines. It keeps the crankshaft and camshafts in perfect alignment. So I open the hood and go to pull the covers to expose the belt and check the condition. I had to take a few steps to let out a very audible "Holy!" with part of the cover off. I had found half of the belt missing, most likely disintegrated from age, and the other is about to break completely. I see a few strands left holding this belt together. It's a miracle it ran even to get into my bay. Just an FYI, this particular engine is designed with tight tolerances, such as if the timing is too far off, it basically destroys the engine. The valves slam into the pistons, broken metal, banging, bad things that cost a lot of money. We look over it and see the vehicle is 30,000 miles past the recommended change for a timing belt. It's amazing this thing runs. We inform the customer and bring her out of the shop and show her what we found. We try to explain it in as layman terms as possible while still respecting her. Some old ladies know their stuff on cars, it's crazy. She sees it and from my story appears to understand completely. I inform her it's a miracle it even drove in. I highly recommend she not drive it or even start the engine until after the belt has been replaced. We go up front and I go over a timing belt replacement package with her cost of labor and parts. She flat out goes, "No, I don't trust you people." We get that a lot. I tried to answer any questions she might have, but no, she's not having any of it. I'd let her know we will price match any in town and that I have already marked it down way below normal price to try and help her out. But again, no, she wants her car back. I suggest she tows it to where she wants and she flips on me. I drove my car in, I'm going to drive it out. Okay. I immediately have her sign a waiver that she understands what can happen and we are not liable. By this point, we have reassembled the covers and pushed the van out to the parking lot. I again tried to reason with her that it's a bad idea to run this engine. The belt replacement is only a few $100s versus $5,000 for a replacement engine. No, I'm driving it. She almost refused to pay our diag fee until I told her I can hold the car indefinitely without payment. This whole time I'm trying to be nice, but by now she's been screaming at me and my coworkers for 30 minutes, saying I'm holding her vehicle hostage and that I'm trying to sell her repairs she knows she does not need. And as for the malicious compliance, I handed her the keys, which she basically ripped from my hands and stormed out. We all kinda gathered to see if it would even start. We heard the engine crank, fire up, then bam, followed by stall. We couldn't believe it. She attempted to start it again, this time just the engine free spinning with no compression. The belt broke and the engine had been damaged. Oh great, here goes the next hour of my life. Though I'm trying hard not to laugh, she opened her door with enough force that I'm surprised it did not break. She starts screaming at me, telling me I sabotaged her and I have to fix it. We informed her of her choices, and that only made her turn a shade of red I did not think possible. She kind of went into a scream/squeal/yell thing that I can't explain. I only made a few words like lawyer, sue, cops, as well as every expletive in the book. She told me if we did not fix it, she would call the police, corporate, managers, Yelp, the whole thing. We just said we warned her beforehand, but she did not listen. The fault was hers and hers only. She starts screaming in the parking lot and we just went back inside, laughing with a few of our other customers who were waiting. They heard it all. About 10 minutes later, our local police shows up demanding to know what happened and how we destroyed her car. I go over it with them away from her. We show them our photo evidence attached to the work order and the written release of liability she signed. They agreed with us. Watching them walk back to her, seeing the grin slowly turn into disbelief was priceless. The van sat in our lot for almost a month, while she tried to get our management and corporate to pay for it. They all denied it. We got a few calls from lawyers who we presented our evidence to, also said she had nothing. I think the best part of this entire ordeal is when she finally came to have it towed. We informed her that she owed us a lot of storage fees, at $15 a day after the 7th day of work is completed. The diag she paid for was the completed work. Cue Velociraptor screeches. Now, I want to make a point. Mechanics get a bad name. 1 out of every 100 shops might screw people over, it's true. I try my dangdest to prevent that, even giving work away if the situation calls for it. But there was no helping this person. Heck, had she been nice and informed me of money issues or something, I probably would have done this job for dang near nothing to help out. A lot of mechanics don't want to screw you out of money. We just want to make sure your huge investment stays in good shape. I can understand her frustration, like some bad mechanics might actually sabotage it and then say, oh, it was like this when it came in, you have to pay a huge amount. But how can you tell? Sure, I'll charge you more. I work at an international furniture retail store that also has a cafeteria-style restaurant. Some days I work as a cashier and ring up furniture, and other days I'm a cashier at the restaurant. The restaurant sells entrees anywhere between $3 and $9. This story happened today while I was working in the restaurant. The restaurant is having a special for the Veteran Day weekend where customers can get an entree, soup and salad, and a drink for free with a valid military ID. A military family came in today and grabbed 2 entrees. One was the $3 one and the other was the $9 one, a salad, a drink, and some other things. When I rung everything up and applied the discount, the computer automatically made the $3 entree free instead of the $9 one. I told the family I would take the $3 entree off the order and charge them for that separately, so the more expensive entree would be free. Everything for the first order ended up to be about $4 with the other little things they purchased. The husband was super confused when I explained this to him, and no matter how many times I tried to clear things up, he kept angrily telling me to put everything together so he wouldn't have to pay 2 separate times. His wife understood me and tried to explain it to her husband also, but it seemed like that only made him angrier and he wouldn't budge. After a couple of minutes of going back and forth, he started shouting to just do what I'm being paid to do and obey the customer. I'm a pretty non-confrontational person, and him shouting at me just made me super embarrassed. Finally, I gave up and stopped caring about trying to save them some money. I put the cheaper entree back on the price and told them the new price, which had jumped from $4 to about $14. The husband then looked even more confused than before and asked me what the heck had happened, and I just said, I did what you asked me to do and put everything on the same order. His wife started laughing, and before the husband started yelling again, she told him to just shut up and pay. It's good that the wife understood and was laughing about it, otherwise it would have been a lot worse and there'd be a lot more shouting. Business launched to spite real estate. I lived in a really horrid place that had an equally horrid property management team. I say team because they changed PMs whenever there was a problem. Nothing was ever done, and in the end there was a massive report against them with relevant authorities for their misconduct. But to the malicious compliance in question, property manager told me I had to have the carpets professionally cleaned, wasn't in the contract, or I'd lose my $800 bond when I moved out. After some back and forth, explaining I had used professional carpet cleaning machine and was well experienced in doing vacate cleans, she insisted it must be an accredited carpet cleaner and she would await for an official receipt that had their ABN on it before approving the return of the bond. I did some research and found out I could become an accredited carpet cleaner as there are no official licensing boards in my state. So I did what any sane person would do. I paid the $85, did the online course and got my certificate. Registered a business name, ABN, etc, all free via a government program I was in at the time. handed the property manager a copy of my accreditation and an invoice for services. I became a professional carpet cleaner and have since properly launched a vacate cleaning business that is still going 6 months later. That's actually amazing how they set up an entire business just off a malicious compliance against a property manager.
Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.